The prisoners of war were quite. There were some hardliners among them that weren't the real Nazi types, but the general youngsters, the young people, young men, they were sort of quite widely accepted. I was 5 years old a week after the war broke out. What I do remember of the actual day, we were caretakers of the Baptist chapel. We lived next door, and my father was listening to Chamberlain's broadcast, and as he was caretaker, he heard the broadcast, and immediately he knew war was declared. He went straight to next door where the service was taking place, up into the pulpit where the minister was preaching, passed him a note, and they immediately stopped the service and retired into adjoining school hall. It was just, you just couldn't sort of comprehend what was really happening. We had some rather, perhaps you call them austere relations who didn't want radio in the house. And they would, when there was a big event happening, they would all come to our house and they would sit round the edge of the room and listen to the broadcast. And if I was making any noise, I'd get into trouble and threatened or sent to bed. They all came to listen to the news. I could always tell when there was something big on. All these, they seemed old to me. They were all sitting right at the edge of the room. And there was some other dear folk used to come in. And they used to come and listen to radio, and I suppose they went back to way Victorian times. And this little lady, when she was listening to it, she used to go up to the radio to see if she could see where the man was coming from. She thought he was in the back of the radio. We had an evacuee from London. Her name was Mary Gates. And she was with us most of the war. In fact, she was so much a part of the family, she used to come back after the war and stay with us. From time to time, her mother and her sister had a small child. They used to come, there were arrangements for them to come from London for the Sunday to see the children. But for reasons, well, you can understand the trauma of leaving a small girl. They used to accidentally miss the train back to London or the bus. So then they would have to come back to us and spend the time with us. So at times we had them in the house as well. So you can imagine there were quite a few. There was only 2 large bedrooms, so I don't know how we managed, but we did. Just the 3 rooms. It didn't until after you realise the trauma of how they must have left their parents. But they were, we were very good, and she was just like, well, just one of the family. We actually became very friendly with one German prisoner of war. He was in a camp at Westbury near Trowbridge. And I think he was working, they used to do manual jobs in the roads, and I think he was working in the path outside our house. And we invited him in, and he became such a family friend. He used to come to us on Saturdays, go back into his camp on Sundays, and come again, spend the day with us on Sundays, and come to church with us. And Kurt Joshman, and in fact, I still got a letter I had from him till I lost touch with him, but I'd play drafts with him and he would be in our house as one of the family. And I think that wasn't just us. I think as much as we realised that the young Germans, they were only fighting like the British, they had to. And he must have been perhaps in his 20s. The prisoners of war were quite. There were some hardliners among them that weren't the real Nazi types, but the general youngsters, the young people, young men, they were sort of quite widely accepted. It's strange, really, and there wasn't the bitterness, not on our side, at any rate. I've lived in Trowbridge all my life. I think it has a big influence on our life. The war brought to us the realities of life in a way, really. We dealt with, we had the dangers, we had the shortages, but we're a kind lot, I suppose. By the time we had all the evacuees and their relatives in, it was quite an interesting time in the war.